was watching the Clippers play last night. Clippers took on the Celtics. It was, by my estimation, and I haven't watched every NBA game. I've probably watched 2 or 3 games a week, which is a lot. I've watched a good amount, and I've watched highlights and bits and pieces of other ones, but legitimately sat down and watched 8 games so far maybe this year. And I've watched bits and pieces of others. In terms of the level of intensity of the crowd, the level of talent, coaching, the execution, and some of it's confirmation bias because you knew when you had Kawhi and Paul George on the floor at the same time, you'd have something special. But by my estimation, that's the game of the year thus far. We're only to November 21st. Let's not act like this is the game of the century or that it proves the Clippers will beat the Celtics in an NBA championship, NBA Finals. Doesn't. But by my estimation, it was the game of the year thus far. And I'm watching the Clippers, and I'm thinking to myself, I grew up in Southern California. During my freshman year in high school, they went to the playoffs. And if you remember, that was right after the LA riots. They didn't get a chance to play at the sports arena because the sports arena was a couple blocks away from where the LA riots emanated. So instead, they played at the Anaheim Convention Center, which is a 9,000-seat gym. And they got beat by the Utah Jazz. I remember exactly. And that was, at that point in time, the greatest Clippers team ever. Think about that. Greatest Clippers team ever. The Clipper curse used to be that you get drafted by the Clippers and then you would get hurt. Or you get drafted by the Clippers and you just stink. You just stink. You know, Bo Kimball just wasn't any good in the pros. He just wasn't. Danny Ferry wasn't nearly who people thought he could be. You go back, like, take a listen to this. Listen to these names. They drafted Danny Manning. Danny Manning tore up his knee. Right? Hersey Hawkins, who ultimately became a great NBA player elsewhere. Loy Vaught. Good play, good solid Clipper, part of those playoff teams. Bo Kimball, bust in the NBA. Elliot Perry, LaRon Ellis. Remember they drafted Randy Woods? Randy Woods is like a 5'10 guard from LaSalle, 16 pick of the NBA draft. Terry DeHare, terrible NBA player, great college player. Lorenzen Wright, God rest his soul. Michael Olowokande. Need I say more? The Candyman, number 1 overall pick. Darius Miles, Chris Wilcox, Chris Kaman. Like, Chris Kaman was the 6th pick of the draft. There were some bad ones. Even in 2005, Yaroslav Korolev was the 12th pick of the draft. Yikes. Al Thornton was the 14th pick of the draft. And when Blake Griffin got drafted, remember, he missed his rookie year due to a knee injury. That was the Clipper curse. Then they got DeAndre Jordan. They got Chris Paul. They had Blake Griffin. And they became respectable, but would always have something go wrong in the second round of the playoffs. That became the new Clipper curse. Do you remember how it all ended? Blake Griffin was traded away to Detroit. Wow. Chris Paul was traded to Houston in the same division, in the same conference, right? And DeAndre Jordan finally signed a free agent deal elsewhere, and this time he actually meant it. The owner was essentially fired. The coaching staff was the only thing that remained. But the Clippers were basically turned over from head to toe. In other words, the Phoenix dies in a show of flames and combustion. You don't get any more flames and combustion than Chris Paul, Blake Griffin, DeAndre Jordan, either hurt, arguing with each other, not getting along, or married to or dating some form of the Kardashian family. But like the Phoenix, the Clippers have risen again. I watched him play last night. And Kawhi Leonard, I don't know if his knees got some degenerative thing. The Clipper guys I know say this is all part of the plan. If he doesn't feel perfectly right, he's not going to play on a given day. He might play 60 games. Doesn't matter. He'll play in the playoffs. And Paul George is a little sloppy, but looks like the perfect number 2. And Patrick Beverley and Lou Williams hitting 3-pointers. And in a game which was played with playoff intensity, they came from 10 down with a couple minutes to go to force overtime and win the game. I don't know if people have a healthy respect for how bad the Clippers were. What a laughingstock they were. They played in the worst arena with the worst owner in the shadows of the best team with the best arena and the best owner in the same city. They were a joke. We have a lot of jobs as sports radio hosts, talking heads, big mouths, or whatever. I'll relate it to this. Do people understand how bad the Saints were? Do you have any idea? The Saints, it wasn't until, I think, the 21st century, till the 2000s, that they actually won a playoff game. Hadn't won a playoff game. They were the Aints. Anyone you see with a bag on their head as a fan, you see the Knicks fans, the bags in their heads recently? Right? And now you'll see Redskins fans or Bengals fans or Dolphins fans. That was essentially invented in NOLA, in New Orleans. And then all of a sudden they were decent one year and Tom Benson was their owner and he had that sparkly Saints umbrella and he'd come down the sidelines, right? And he'd dance. They're like, hey, maybe you shouldn't open an umbrella indoors. And that would pay off when they would get to the NFL playoffs and get run out of the building. Like the Saints being competitive atop. Look, I understand their last couple seasons have ended in traumatic, tragic fashion for a football team. Like literally, you're going to win in Minnesota, and a Hail Mary doesn't get anywhere near the end zone, and you whiff on one tackle, and Stephon Diggs takes it to the house, only to be outdone by last year playing at the Dome, and on third down, a completely blown pass interference call ends up eliminating your hopes. Like we've seen the Saints find a way to lose games that they've had won, whether it's their fault or other people's fault, doesn't matter. But what we don't do a great job of is pointing out that, dude, the win is just being relevant, just being competitive, just having a chance to win a Super Bowl, which they've done once and been there a couple times. The same is true for the Clippers. I watched the Clippers last night and I thought, holy hell. Well, it's not the Lakers, it's the Clippers, the two best teams in the NBA. I can say that out loud, not just in a room full of friends, but into a microphone and not sound like the biggest idiot ever. There has never been a moment up until this year where I could say, hey, the Clippers might be the best team in the NBA, where people wouldn't laugh and snicker at you, right? That's how remarkable their rise is from the ashes. Maybe fueled by the sun. I don't know. This is Doc Rivers after the win last night.
Like I said earlier in the year, we're just trying to figure out a way of winning games, and then we want to become a good team. Right now we're winning games, but we have not become a good team yet. And so we have a lot of work. We are clearly a work in progress. Our guys know that, though, and they understand that.
But what Doc probably would add, if he wasn't on camera, is that good teams find a way to win games that they could easily lose. Last night's an example. Down 10 to the Celtics. Kyrie Irving hits Kemba Walker hits a 3. It very easily could have been over at that very moment.
Hi, I'm Doug Gottlieb from Fox Sports Radio, and you need to subscribe to the Fox Sports Radio YouTube channel where you can hear and see me. Why not? Plus everybody else who's awesome here in Fox Sports.